Let me ask you something that might sting a little. What do people really experience when you're no longer available? Not just physically, but emotionally, energetically, mentally. What shifts when you withdraw your attention? What happens when you stop showing up for the things, people, and places that never truly valued you in the first place? Absence isn't weakness, it's power. It's a declaration. It says, I know what I bring to the table, and I'm no longer afraid to take that table somewhere else. We've been trained to believe that our presence is our greatest gift, and while that's true, there's another truth they never told you. Your absence is equally valuable. When used with intention, you see, there are people in your life who will never recognize your worth until you're gone. Not because they're evil, not because they're malicious, but because you've trained them to expect your loyalty without question, your energy without boundaries, your time without cost. And here's the brutal truth. When you give everything without pause, you become invisible. Not because you're not enough, but because you've made yourself too available. So, what happens when you finally pull back? Clarity. When you step away, you finally get to see who reaches out and who never really cared. You get to observe the true nature of your relationships, and maybe most importantly, you get to reconnect with you, your needs, your goals, your peace. Absence creates space, and space is where healing lives. It's in that space where you stop running around trying to prove your worth. It's in that space where you remember that not everyone deserves front row access to your life, that just because someone wants your time doesn't mean they've earned it. This isn't about ego, this is about self-respect, so let me be clear. Pulling away isn't about being cold, it's about being conscious. You're not disappearing, you're discerning. You're not punishing others, you're prioritizing your inner world. You're not being selfish, you're finally being self-aware. Because when you learn to value your absence, you teach others how to value your presence. Some people only understand your value in hindsight. And that's okay. You're not here to chase appreciation. You're here to embody it, to live in a way that makes it clear. If I choose to be here, it's because I want to be, not because I need to be, not because I'm afraid to leave, but because I know who I am, with or without you. So the next time you feel guilty for pulling back, remember this. Your absence is not abandonment, it's alignment. Your silence is not surrender, it's strategy. Your distance is not rejection, it's revelation. Protect your energy, guard your peace. Let your absence speak as loudly as your presence ever did. Because the real you, that person who is no longer afraid to step back, that person is unstoppable. Your absence can be more powerful than your presence because it forces people to confront what they've overlooked. We live in a world where being constantly available is often mistaken for value. People think that showing up all the time, being present for every need, every favor, every moment is the only way to prove your importance. But what they don't realize is that overexposure can lead to invisibility. When you're always there, you can become a background presence. Comfortable, expected, and eventually ignored. The truth is, sometimes you need to pull back in order to be truly seen. The power of absence isn't about punishing others. It's about creating a gap wide enough for appreciation to grow. It's a psychological reset. It allows others to feel the weight of your contribution, not by what you do, but by what happens when you're not doing it. It's in that silence, that distance, that people begin to understand the energy, time, and effort you've been giving all along. And it's not just about relationships with others. The same principle applies to the relationship you have with yourself. When you step away from noise, from distractions, from environments that drain you, you begin to recognize how much of yourself you were giving away unconsciously. You start to feel your own presence more clearly. You remember who you are outside of the expectations and roles you've been filling, and in that remembering something shifts, something powerful. You realize that your worth isn't tied to how much you do or how often you show up for others. Your worth is inherent, it's in your being, not your doing. Absence also builds strength. It teaches patience, discernment, and self-respect. It allows you to take inventory of what matters and where you truly want to invest your energy. Not everyone deserves immediate access to you. Not every space deserves your light, and the moment you become okay with pulling back, not out of anger, but out of alignment, is the moment you reclaim your power. Because that's what this is really about, power, not control over others, but control over your own choices. When you use your absence intentionally, it becomes a tool for transformation. It sends a message that says, I know my value. I'm no longer afraid to withhold it when it's not being honored. In a world where everyone is shouting to be heard, sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is silence. In a world that demands your constant presence, sometimes the greatest act of self-worth is stepping away. Your absence can echo louder than your words ever could. Let it be a reminder, not just to others, but to yourself, that you are the asset. You are the energy, and your presence is not just something to be consumed. It's something to be cherished. When you finally understand that, you'll never fear walking away again. Stepping back reveals the truth in ways that constant presence never can. When you're always available, always giving, always showing up, people can start to take you for granted, not because they are inherently ungrateful, but because they get used to you being there. Your consistency becomes their comfort, and over time, they stop noticing the weight you carry, the sacrifices you make, or the energy you pour into every interaction. It becomes invisible, but the moment you step back, the entire dynamic changes. Your absence acts like a spotlight. It illuminates the places where love, respect, and appreciation were missing. It reveals who calls, who cares, who shows up, not out of convenience, but out of genuine connection. This kind of clarity can be uncomfortable, even painful, because when you pull away, you're not just creating distance. You're creating space for truth to rise to the surface. Some people will disappear the moment you're no longer giving. Some environments will stop functioning because they depended on your silent efforts, but that's not a loss, that's a revelation. That's the gift of absence. It shows you who was there for you, and who was only there for what they could get from you. It highlights which relationships were built on mutual respect, and which were built on your unspoken willingness to tolerate being undervalued. Stepping back also reveals something even more important. When you're entangled in constant motion, surrounded by noise and demands, it's easy to forget your own boundaries, your own needs, your own voice. You can lose sight of what matters to you because you've been so focused on pleasing, helping, fixing, or proving. But the silence that follows your withdrawal, that's where rediscovery lives. That's where you remember what peace feels like. That's where you reconnect with what you truly want, who you truly are, and what kind of life you actually desire. And let's be honest, some people won't like it when you step back. They'll accuse you of being distant, selfish, or cold, but that's only because your constant presence served them more than it served you. Your absence disrupts a system they benefited from, and while it may sting at first, the truth is always more valuable than illusion. When the curtain lifts, you get to see people and situations clearly, not through the lens of obligation or emotional debt, but through honesty. Stepping back doesn't mean you're giving up. It means you're waking up. It means you're brave enough to pause and ask, who really values me? Who's willing to walk with me when I'm not carrying everything? Who sees me not just what I do for them? The answers might surprise you, but they'll also set you free, because once the truth is visible, you can stop investing in illusions and start building a life that reflects your true worth. ChatGPT said, pulling away is not rejection, it's self-respect. For far too long, many of us have believed that in order to prove we care, we have to stay available. We think that loyalty means tolerating disrespect. That love means enduring neglect. That commitment means sacrificing ourselves endlessly to keep others comfortable. But there comes a moment when your soul gets tired of carrying the weight of people and situations that do not return your effort. That moment isn't bitterness, it's awakening. And from that awakening, a powerful truth rises. Choosing distance is not an act of rejection toward others. It is an act of returning to yourself. When you start to protect your peace, people will have opinions. When you set boundaries, some will call you cold. When you stop overgiving, the ones who benefited from your lack of limits may label you selfish, but none of those things are true. You're not turning away out of malice. You're simply choosing not to abandon yourself anymore. That's what self-respect looks like. It's not dramatic. It's not loud. It's calm, clear, and unwavering. It's the quiet realization that your energy is sacred, that your time is valuable, that your presence is not something to be handed out freely to those who misuse it. Pulling back isn't about building walls. It's about building standards. It's about showing yourself that you are worthy of reciprocity, that you don't need to prove your worth by being everything to everyone. It's saying, I deserve relationships where I don't have to exhaust myself just to be seen. I deserve spaces where I'm not shrinking to be accepted. And sometimes the only way to honor that truth is to create space. Space to heal, space to breathe, space to remember that you are not responsible for managing everyone else's emotions while neglecting your own. Letting go doesn't mean you stop loving people. It means you love yourself enough to stop participating in cycles that drain you. You recognize that staying in environments where you're not valued is a silent message to yourself that you don't deserve more, and you do. You deserve connection that feels mutual. You deserve to be chosen, not tolerated. And if that means stepping away from certain people or situations, then so be it, because peace is worth it, growth is worth it, you are worth it. So when you decide to pull back, don't doubt yourself. Don't let guilt creep in and convince you to return to what hurt you. Remember, self-respect sometimes looks like walking away. Sometimes it sounds like silence. Sometimes it feels like loneliness, but it's not. It's alignment, it's power. It's the beginning of a life where you no longer settle for being almost loved, halfway respected, or conditionally accepted. It's where your true healing begins, and from that place you no longer beg for value. You embody it.